Yo, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Cinema Review. Today we're looking at Euphoria Season 2, Episode 3, titled Ruminations, Big and Little Bullies. Right off the bat, you may realize that, my movie selection isn't back there behind me. I am in the process of moving, so if you notice in the next couple of videos, it might be a little bit messy behind me. I'm just, trying to get out of my room, trying to move all this stuff out of here, so that's just something I want to say right off the bat. But this episode was great. This will just be my review and thoughts on the episode, sort of taking a deep dive into these characters, what they were thinking, and just giving like a basis on what I thought of the episode. So before we go into it, please make sure to like. If you guys end up enjoying this, please make sure to subscribe if you're new. Let's get into Euphoria Season 2, Episode 3. So right in the beginning, we get a flashback for Nate's dad, Cal. And right off the bat, they don't really tell us that it's Cal's flashback, but you can tell from like the 90s aesthetic, just the way this character is going with like a gay relationship with his best friend. It would just make sense for this would be Cal's background for what he's done in the future. And I thought this was a very interesting dynamic to portray and to have for Cal's background. To have two best friends who end up liking each other, who are gay for each other, but like they don't know how to go about it, or they don't know how to tell each other, or whatever. It was interesting to watch, and I thought it was another dynamic relationship for this show. And just props for the show, making that 90s feel very nostalgic. The hair, the makeup, the feel and the costumes all felt really 90s, and it was nostalgic with the music and everything. It was something that I enjoyed. And at times it also impressed the hell out of me when the two friends were at the gay bar right before they kiss. The lighting in there with the green and red lighting and just the feel of that atmosphere just impressed me. And it was also surprising how like right after they kiss, Cal gets the call from his girl that she's pregnant. And, this messes up everything now. He can't be gay with his friend. He's got to take care of the baby now. And, there's another thing where, when Nate is, like, banging Cassie up in his room and Cal and his wife hear it, she says a line like, what I wouldn't give to go back to high school. And he's like, yeah. And he's obviously thinking about his friend and, like, who he actually loves. And that's just another continuing theme for this show where it's mostly about love, It's about love between, now that we see Cal and his friend, the love between Cassie and Nate, the love between Nate and Maddie, the love between Rue and Jules, love between Elliot and Rue, and Elliot and Jules, and Rue's love for drugs, and it's like, that's another big theme, is that her love for drugs and her attachment, and like, her going about that, which we're about to talk about in just a second, and also a potential love between Fez and Lexi, which I do hope that continues in some way. I think it will. But Fez got some great scenes in here as well. And I just love how this show continues to tell personal, intricate stories in such a short amount of time and adding so much depth to characters. And just in a couple of minutes, like in that first episode, Fez got so much depth in the matter of like 8 minutes in that first episode. And then for this, Cal becomes a very sympathetic character, and we look at him in a totally different light in the matter of 13 minutes. To where it adds a lot more empathy for him, and now we look at him in a totally different way. He used to just be seen as the bad guy or the villain, and he was like just like this messed up dude. But now that we see his background, yes, he's still messed up in the future, but it gives him more of a reason, and you could feel a little bit sympathy for him now. And I think it's just another testament to the show, like I always say, like how the writing is on a different level. In the matter of 13 minutes, you could tell such a powerful story and add so much depth to a character. It's just, it just continues to impress me. And then we cut to Rue, who's singing that Irresponsible song, which I think is by Frank Sinatra, if I'm not wrong. And, that's just symbolizing, how she is irresponsible by relapsing back to drugs. She's trying to function as a drug addict. She's trying not to hurt anyone. She thinks she can live her life normally while doing drugs and it won't affect anyone else. That's what she's trying to do. So, when she's in this bliss of singing and she's like, doesn't know like her surroundings and she's like, high on drugs and she's trying to function. And when her sister notices it, it sort of throws her for a loop that like, it makes her realize like, wow, like I am affecting, my sister I'm still affecting everyone around me while doing these drugs. And that, that really great scene that they have when they're yelling at each other, which leads to Rue sort of saying like, this is where I'm at now, like I have to do drugs or I'm going to kill myself. She literally said like it's drugs or suicide to her sister. And it's character growth for both of them, I think. For Rue's sister, she's getting older. Rue probably recognizes that, she could be more truthful to her. She always tried to protect her from these things, but I think Rue's at a breaking point to where she's literally, it's a cry for help. She's saying, I'm going to kill myself or I have to do these drugs. It's one or the other. She can't go on without these drugs anymore. And for this season, we're going to be seeing it throughout this whole season, how she's going to be able to cope with that. Like, can she function as a drug addict in this society, or will she have to somehow get off of it, which will lead to her suicide, or can she get off of it and somehow, survive, which I think was more of season 1. I think season 1 was that message of can she get off of it and survive? And we saw that she could get off of it, but she can't really survive without it, as we saw that she relapsed. But that also was a cause of Jules as well. So we'll see how it all plays out. Another character who got some spotlight in this episode was Lexi. I thought Lexi's whole skit with how it's like a documentary style, how she talks about sidekicks, and like she's talking about how like she's like the director of like her own show and she was like an outsider. I thought it was so funny, and this episode was probably the funniest episode of Euphoria for me. I'm not gonna lie, there were so many comedic moments in here that just had me laughing. And this part with Lexi, her talking to the camera and like it saying cut and like the documentary stuff, I thought it was such a funny little bit. And another funny yet sad moment was Cassie, her sister, how she gets ready at 4 a.m. for Nate and Nate just keeps blowing her off. Funny but sad at the same time, like watching Cassie like, get ready at 4 a.m. Like what are you doing? And then to see Nate brush her off is just like upsetting to watch. But then that one scene where they're all in the bathroom, all the girls, and then Cassie blows up at Maddie saying that like, oh, like I'm with Nate and all that stuff. I thought it was real at first, and I was like, this is like a great scene. And it still was a great scene, but then as we saw, it was just all in her head. She didn't actually tell Maddie all that. And I'm waiting for the moments when she actually will tell Maddie, if she does, because I think that will be, a really great scene. But again, it was also funny to watch her blow up at Maddie, even though it didn't actually happen. And now back to Rue. I think it's so good for the show to do this. I think it's so important how Rue has this idea, right, of trying to like do drugs but not having to pay for them, right? So she wants to go into business. She offers the idea up to Fez. Fez doesn't want to hear it. So she goes to Lori, which is she's pretty much just a giant drug lord, right? And she likes the idea, and she gives Rue, I think, $10,000, to make money off of this. And with this show, it's mostly relationship focused, right? It's sort of like that's like the main dynamic and the interest is seeing how all these relationships play out. And the only sort of like big interesting storyline in this season so far was Cal and the tapes. He wants to get the tapes of him and Jules, because that's felt high stakes. Like to see like, oh, what happens with Jules and Rue or Cassie with Nate? That's not high stakes. I mean, like if they break up, if they don't break up, like that's just like an interesting, not soap opera-y sort of thing. But it's not like a high stakes thing. But Cal trying to find the tapes, that's high stakes. And now Rue going into business with this drug lord, to where the drug lord literally says, Lori says to her, if you mess up, I'm going to, pretty much sex traffic you, or she says, give you to some bad people, right? And that's high stakes. So now I think, having this another element of tension, another layer of storytelling, besides just relationships, I think is so good for the show because it adds more interest, not only with Rue, but in the whole season in general. It makes it feel more high stakes, which I enjoy. And then speaking of Cal as well, we see him, go to Fez's house. He thinks Fez has the tapes, right? And then, Ash is just beating him with the back of the barrel with the gun. I thought this was funny too, not because Cal was getting beat, because Cal was talking about Jules, talking about the tapes, and Fez was like, what the hell are you talking about, man? Like Fez had no idea what he was talking about, and Cal just kept going on. I thought that was funny as well. But Ashley beats the crap out of Nate's dad, Cal, and I thought it was another cool scene. And it looks like this dynamic or this relationship with Cal and Fez is sort of over in a way. Not over, but it's definitely going to be taking a break until the very end, because Fez tells him at the end, like, stay away from Rue and Jules and me, and if you do, like, I don't think he threatens him, but he says, like, just stay away, and Cal says yes. So obviously I think he will stay away until maybe like the very end of this season, and then maybe at the very end when Cal tries to get tapes or something like that, he like runs into Jules or Rue and he like does something to them, and then Fez will probably kill him. I feel like Fez will kill him. I feel at some point, but I also think Fez is gonna die. I think as well. So I don't know. This season could go either way. But I thought this scene with them was pretty good. Another interesting relationship is this love triangle between Rue and Jules and Elliot, right? Elliot and Jules were talking. Elliot sort of says that he does have a crush on Rue. But he also flirts with Jules as well, and Jules flirts with him as well. So it's going to turn into some sort of weird love triangle of a thing, Because Jules senses that she doesn't know that Rue is relapsed. She doesn't know that that Rue is back on drugs, right? But she does feel that there's a chemistry or something between Rue and Elliot. And that's why she was sort of like interrogating Elliot earlier in the episode, right? Because she knows that something is there, that they have some sort of relationship or chemistry. And obviously she thinks it's a love thing, when in reality I think it's more of a drug thing, but Elliot does have feelings for Rue. And Rue probably does have some sort of feelings for Elliot because they understand each other in a way that Jules doesn't. Rue can be honest with Elliot about the drugs, and he sort of accepts her for being that way. Where Jules isn't like that. She has to hide herself from Jules. She can't, be her true self with the drugs because Jules rejects that. So it's a very interesting relationship between all of them, and you can even tell that Elliot understands Jules in a way that Rue doesn't, or at least Elliot plays it off like he does when he talks about the Kurt Cobain care and Jules' personality, and Jules is like, wow, like no one's really said that about me. That's what she's thinking, and that's why they'll probably end up doing something, and Rue. It's going to be this weird thing, but it should be very interesting to watch. And at the very end of the episode, we see Rue do fentanyl, which is so bad. I mean, I think the show telling us like how far down Rue is really going, because she is such a likable character, Zendaya. And, Zendaya as an actor is very likable. This character, Rue, is also likable as well. But it's so hard to support her and really accept her for who she is. Like, I feel like the audience is more like Jules. Like, we love Rue, but we want her to get off the drugs. We want her to be better. And, just seeing her try to cope with drugs, especially fentanyl, which is, that shit can kill you. It really makes you question, like, how much can we really like this character going forward? I think we wanted to see her get better. And then also at the end, we see Cassie and Nate, who meet up every Friday once a week. And Nate blows her off to go meet with Maddie. He gives Maddie flowers. And there's something I predicted last episode, I'm sure a lot of you guys did as well, that I thought Nate and Maddie were going to end up together. Nate and Cassie were never going to work out. Just so different. Nate doesn't want that. Nate and Maddie just have this toxic draw to each other that they probably always will have. And Cassie doesn't have that. So to see that, it's going to be interesting to see the fallout of that. If Cassie finds out, how she reacts, and all this stuff. So my rating for this episode was a 4.2 out of 5. I think it was better than episode 2. Not quite on the same level of episode 1 yet. I loved episode 1. Another episode that really impressed the hell out of me. One of the best episodes of Euphoria. This episode gave us a lot. It told us a lot. It unraveled the story a lot, brought in some new storylines, and it impressed me as well in a lot of ways too. But that is just my rating and thoughts on this episode. What do you guys think? You think there's another good episode of Euphoria? Did you not like it? Was it your favorite? Let me know down below in the comments. If you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure to like it. Please make sure to subscribe if you're new. I will see you on the next video. Have a great rest of the day.